Highway to the sky. I was bringing with my tiger into flames from my mama's eyes. Fill the room, but I was not consumed. Look at mine, it was water. Broken but I come back stronger. I was drawn from the river by Pharaoh's daughter. In my solitude, found my gratitude. Every fire I walk through the flames I did, rise up random. Now I'm fire. Now I'm
Testing. Hi everyone, thank you all for being here tonight. Really, no matter what the turnout, which has definitely been weighing on my mind, because while I was preparing, I really expected in the hundreds, but Hashem had different plans. If the people aren't going to get inspired in real time, maybe it'll happen at a later date. But the content is still, God willing, going to be great and good for right now. I could skip the part where I'm not special and not deserving to be here because I love you all and I really appreciate it. The first thing I wrote was, anyone who truly values wisdom will seek it wherever it can be found. Okay, and we'll begin. See, I think everybody knows me. My name is Chehebar. I'm a certified professional coach, and I chose this line of work because the idea of inspiring another person really helps, it moves me, and it's why it's what aligns with my purpose. And when you save one person, it's like you're saving an entire world. I believe I had a long life filled with experiences, filled with lessons learned, and there was a lot to gain from my life's experience. So when I chose this line of work, first of all, it was a Venn diagram I saw once before. It's those things with the circles, 3 circles. So there's what you love, what you're good at, and what society values. I got the first 2, and society could meet me in the third, even if they're just scratching the surface. So this is what I love, and this is what I enjoy, and B'ezrat Hashem, I could do something great with this. When I did my classes to become a life coach, you're supposed to hone in and what is your niche, and instantly it was, for me, spirituality. Not in my earlier years, but in a point in time, we'll get to that. So the slogan on my site states, to own your truth. And I want to clarify, this is not a Galadnik way of saying it, because there's only one truth, that's Torat Hashem, that's what's emet. But when I say own your truth, it means according to your likings, according to You know what speaks to you in the most kosher sense. You know, and I just thought that, yeah, that. Okay. So just so if you guys don't already know what I'm about, I like to go deep. I'm a deep thinker. I'm an old soul. If you know me, you'll know that I'm very straight to the point. I could be almost, you know, childish at times. And it's important that I say this part. I said, I repeat, I'm not here because I'm better. I wrote contrary. I often suspect my goodness because I recognize that I'm half godly soul and I'm half animal, and we're brought down into a world of physicality that favors the baser head. So what that's all about is recognize the value you bring to the world. I'm never good at intros, so let's get right into the Divrei Torah. The title of the banner tonight, before we begin, I'd like to thank my wife Sarah for putting up with me. I know with this stuff sitting in the forefront of my head, I could be self-righteous and exacting at times, failing to account for you know, the other person's point of view and the emotional aspect, and I love you, honey. And thank you again, everyone, for being here. My parents, Mom, I love you for everything you've done for me. I pray we can make the most of tonight. So tonight's flyer stated that the beauty of wisdom, the depth of spirituality, and the quiet strength and kindness. So, not me, Shlomo HaMelech defines wisdom as synonymous with truth, the ability to discern, and the ability to accept correction. These are three things that get us to the key, which is Yirat Shamayim, knowledge of Hashem. And one more thing I have to make public. I know I advertised as Gems by Ruby, but this is more about my other platform, and that's Grow Through Torah. This is a night of real spirituality. I just couldn't help but notice that. That's what felt important. So, truth, the ability to discern, and the ability to accept correction is the key to Yirat Shamayim. When you get a calculation that you made with life's experiences, you receive God's messages, I don't know about you, but it's the most amazing feeling for me. So wisdom to me, I defined all that stuff is the road to your truest self. Because when we get these hiddushes and these personal truths, they're added to our, you know, to our database, where it becomes almost like a non-negotiable, and we become our true self. So each person is a makeup of their values. Everyone values, let's say, the same 5 things: friends, family, work, health. What makes all the difference is where we put the 5. And yeah. So, wisdom. I said it was the end of it all. I said it's all about knowledge of Hashem. So today, every Wednesday, we read in the chapter of the day, El Nakamot Hashem, and in that passage, it says, Hayisod Goyim, Melamed Da'al Adam. So I learned this from Rabbi Miller's beige booklets, Torah Sabidor. And when I read this, it blew me away. What that pasuk means is, Hayisod Goyim, he who chastises the nations, who sends, who makes everything happen in the world, is he not teaching mankind knowledge? So, I have a question. Everyone, I don't even need to ask you, but when COVID came around, was anyone not certain that this was Hashem speaking to us, that He runs the world, that this is His show? It's unquestionable, everyone agrees. So, I got a lot of backlash for this one, but on my chat, I said, after the Knicks Game 1 loss, when this guy, Aaron Neesmith, hit a bunch of 3-pointers, and the Indiana Pacers First of all, forget the game versus the Knicks. They had an amazing playoff run. But this instance where the Knicks, where the Pacers overcame this incredible deficit, there's no other explanation for it but Hashem. People could say, yeah, Hashem doesn't care about sports. I agree he doesn't care about sports, but he cares about his world, and the sports is still an avenue that, and a language that the Goyim can understand, that all people can understand. So I stand by my comments that it's all Hashem, even the Knicks basketball game. You know, picture a Goy saying, "Oh my God," you know, it's real. Hashem wants to teach us in every instance in life. Okay, the depth of spirituality. This is what we do with our wisdom, and God willing, we're going to get into flow right now. Spirituality is what we do with our wisdom. This is a bunch of things, but first off, this is how well we respond to hardships, to anything that's happening to us. You know, first thing I wrote is, just so you get to know me a little bit more, I study a lot of Torah books, but these Torah books are in the field of self-help, of personal development. And there was one daf of Gemara that I really got really well, and this is in Berachot, pages 5 and 6, when it was talking about Yisudim Shel Ahava. This is afflictions. That's the word we used earlier. Hashem who chastised the nation. Same idea. Yisudim are nothing more than a call for us, a calling. Hashem calling us back to Him. All Yisudim are from love. In fact, the Gemara says that if a person goes 40 days without experiencing any sort of affliction, he should be concerned that he's getting repaid here and being cut off for eternity. So, Hashem, please don't put me to test, because these are lofty ideals we're talking. They also come with a prescribed end date. Every sickness that comes upon a person, there's a prescribed end date. When we accept it, it passes because it no longer has a purpose. The affliction is here to prompt us into something. And the most important one, we need to believe that any affliction is for atonement. Suffering atones. So spirituality, the first thing, another thing that comes to mind is faith. And faith begins where logic ends. Our faith is meta-rational. That's a word I learned from Zvi Reisman, a beautiful author on the wisdom in the Hebrew months. And if you guys didn't already know, it's Rosh Chodesh Tammuz tonight. I'm going to keep it only positive for tonight. But I'll pause here and I'll talk about Tammuz. Today is Rosh Chodesh Tammuz. It's these summer months where, you know, we're more lax and fun is paramount. Hashem told me in the text that everything is worth double. Everything's worth double right now. I'm not going to go into all details, but I read something really nice in Rabbi Biederman's Torah Wellsprings for this past week. He read, I'll ask you guys, tell me who knows Aleph Bet? Start from, where's Nathan? Samich. Start from Samich and read the Aleph Bet, please. It goes Samich, Ayin, Pei, Sadi. Who wants to translate what I'm saying? This is the Alodah for this month. Who wants to translate what I'm saying? Samach is alluding to closing. Ayin is spelled literally eye. And Peh is guarding our eyes and watching our mouths from speaking Lashon Hara, and will be a Samach Ayin Peh Sadiq. So I thought that was really nice. This month also corresponds to the tribe of Reuben, and that's my name, so I always have more of an affinity towards reading about these summer months. You know, knowledge is power in this category. There's no other way to put it, I really believe. So we were talking. Faith begins where logic ends. When we're thrown into hardship and we accept it, doors open. And I wrote this down expecting a big turnout, and it's even easier to say it now, but I wrote a disclaimer. I recognize, my last name. I know I drive a Range Rover, but you need to take my word for this and see past, because all the time on my platforms, it's the most important idea, but I steer clear of it, and that's the idea of gratitude, and because I don't want anyone to ever say, yeah, says him, he's got it easy. I want the chance to defend myself. So for the sake of tonight, I wanted to ask everyone to look past my upbringing and where I come from. So when you respond in faith, back to the discussion, when you respond in faith, doors open. And I could start with a story. Once I was having a fantasy draft, and I left my tchotchke bag, something just like this, on the hood of my car. And I drove away, and it slid off. You can imagine what was in there, wallet and all those things. So the next day, I wake up for shul, and I'm like, oh my gosh, where's my wallet? Oh my God, it was in my tchotchke bag. So I ran back to the scene. I see nothing. I'm turning back out of Roselle on Ocean Avenue, and I see something black on the floor. It was a black tchotchke bag. I look at it, I open it, empty. I'm like, whoever's got it must have taken everything. All right, so a little bit of details. My wife was 9 months pregnant at the time, due any day. So that's a key piece of the story, so I'll tell you. So I went into shul, I prayed. I said, I was upset, but I prayed. But I'll tell you, when I got to the point of Barahu in Alenu, right before Alenu, I promise you, the one or two times in my life that I ever felt so connected to Hashem, where I totally didn't care that I lost my tchotchke bag and everything in it. I promise I was closer to happy than upset. And now let me tell you why. I mentioned my wife. She was 9 months pregnant. I said, Hashem, I understand what's happening here. You want me to rise above my nature. You want me to not dwell on this affliction of sort. It's only money, but so I understood what the trade-off was. I said, Hashem, you take my tchotchke bag, but my first child will be a healthy baby, Bezat Hashem. So when I understood what the trade-off could be, it was a breeze. And guess what? Remember I said the door's open? Next thing I know, I get a text from someone, is this your insurance card? Okay, another text from someone, is this your ID? It was scattered all over Ocean Avenue. My eyes couldn't see it. And I went back to the scene, and it all made its way back to me. And it's a special story, it sticks to me. So the point of that story is, recognize the trade-off, The real point of tonight is starting a conversation with Hashem. And whatever you propose, whatever deal you propose, He accepts. He accepts. He just wants you to communicate with Him. He wants you to start a dialogue. As a general rule, doesn't seem like it's in the right spot on the page. As a general rule, always think, what would Hashem be thinking? What would Hashem be thinking? The way I responded to any situation. I went to the speaker series in Sharet Zion 3 weeks ago, and Rabbi Yechiel Spiro, it was a phenomenal speech. I'll just give you one point. And this is what spirituality is, the depth of spirituality. He said, it was at the end of his speech, but it was the most amazing part. When the Jews were in the Midbar, what protected them? The Ananei HaKavod, the clouds of glory, the clouds of honor. Wouldn't the clouds of protection be more fitting? Right? Because this was the clouds that protected them. So he said, when you give kavod to another person, let's say you're in disagreement with your wife, your spouse, and it's an important topic, and you're so certain, and she's so certain, and there's two options. First of all, the first option, which we don't even get to the first option, we just start blowing up. But the first option is, honey, I know you're always right, but this time I'm really adamant about this one. And hopefully, maybe she'll see your point of view. But the other one is you give in, even though you think you're right with all your heart, and that will serve as the protection. When you give glory to the other person, that will be the protection. She could be choosing wrong, but Hashem will see it through. I thought that was the most amazing point. Machloket kills all blessing, and giving another person honor and respect is it will protect you. This thought was on my mind also. I might have mentioned it already, but I'll just say it here. Think about the idea that we were placed, I mentioned it earlier, it's really out of order, we were placed here on this earth to rise above. Now, someone might ask, what if my challenges are so difficult? What if I can't rise above? Do you know who your Father in heaven is? He doesn't care. You stay good and pure. You stay good and pure. You stay connected. And you're on the same playing field as the guy who you think made it, the guy who you think made it in your eyes. Everyone is equal in Hashem's eyes. No one person better. The one who's covered in dirt and the one who's So now how do you feel? What if I can't, I said two questions. What if I can't rise above? I gave you the answer. Now how do you feel? How much more do you want to have a relationship with Hashem? And it's not black or white. It's definitely not black or white. Like people think, my boys in the chat were joking, like, when's Ruby giving his class? And then I said, okay, funny joke, like I defended myself. He said, whoa, don't defend yourself. So, you're a rabbi now, they're telling me. I said, what do you think? It's not black or white just because I value these ideas that I'm perfect. No, that's not what it means. It's starting your dialogue, your conversation with your Father in heaven, because that's really all he cares about. Again, on spirituality. More than ever before, I've been going to, actually it's a good time to pause. But everyone, I think, knows my story that's here, that one 4th of July, excuse me, it was right before 4th of July, one Shabbat morning, when I was living with my parents, I woke up late and I decided to go have a coffee and a lig while all the men were in shul. And I went outside and I had that cigarette and all of a sudden I hear the gate open and my mom is coming home from her bike ride. So I run downstairs, the outside steps, and she missed me, ran upstairs, washed my hands, went to have lunch. 10 minutes later, I lived for myself. I lived for my comfort. So I evaded the human eye, but I failed to account for God's watchful eye. Also, that same day, and I'm not proud of this, but they say your averot, if they're able to change you, they turn into merit. So I'm not proud of this day, but that same day, I also got a flat tire. Maybe that, on my bike, maybe that flat tire was Hashem telling me, walk home and I'll spare you tomorrow. Walk home and I'll spare you tomorrow. But I didn't walk home. I did the easiest hand gesture and hailed the ride on Ocean Avenue, holding my bike out the window like this. So that night I texted my friend, friends of mine are having a party in the Hamptons, let's wing it. Wing it could be good or bad, but when you live for yourself, it's always bad. So, 4th of July party, I'll cut to the chase. We were planning on staying there overnight, and me and him both decided we were out of it, let's go home. I said, okay, fine, only if you drive. He drove for all about 30 minutes, and then said he's so tired, so he handed me the wheel, and I fell asleep behind the wheel. Upon impact, I woke up from airbags and I screamed holding the wheel. I said, I fell asleep. I'm screaming at him and I hit the brakes, because I wanted to see the damage to my car. I didn't feel like much. So I went to hit the brakes and pull over. Next thing I know, hit the brakes. The car does 3 spins. My car is going like this vertically. Cars are supposed to go this way. My car was going like this, and I was waiting for it to tip. It was in fast speeds, I'll never forget, real fast speeds. And the car never tipped. So in the days that followed, and I spoke to people, they basically told me you were spared. Maybe you had a zechut, maybe you had a merit, something that was protecting you, even though I thought to my, I don't recall what that was. I attributed it to one good deed, and we'll get to that point. But I best believe that I'm now deficient in the department of merits. So from that point on, this was me just scratching the surface. Little did I know then, I thought, me and Hashem are best friends now. I'm going to be a Jew. So, of course, that was the last cigarette I ever smoked on Shabbat. and Baruch Hashem, right now I keep Shabbat pretty well. And yeah, so sometimes it takes a wake-up call. I read somewhere, I believe it was in the Deutsch series, Let My Nation series, where it told me that Hashem doesn't do anything to a person without first a whisper. So Hashem was whispering to me for 20 plus years in Chab, so he had to turn up the volume. All right, spirituality, last point. Through that, I got connected. And since that point, my life, my purpose, my happiness, everything has just went like this. When you're living with Hashem as your wingman, life just becomes a whole lot better. Everything just has meaning, the hardships, the good times, everything just becomes amplified and more worthwhile. So I will tell you all, I was not always like this. It's still even not great. But I recently told myself, I'm showing up anyways. I didn't even say the point yet, but prayer is all we have. I'm showing up to shul 3 times a day. I want to make it count. If I'm going to be there, I'm going to go a little bit slower. If it's 30 minutes, I'm going to make those 30 minutes count. It's really all we have. All we can do is do our best and pray. There's a man upstairs that runs the world, and he's dying to give to us. Hashem, in a book I read, Tomer Devorah, he compared Hashem to a water distribution system. The source is always giving water. The source is always pumping beracha to everyone. But he can't give to everyone unconditionally. At some point, people stop paying bills. He has to plug the line. So as long as you're connected, Hashem is going to give you. As long as you're, good and pure, and we are good and pure. Everyone here is good and pure. We get mixed with bad and tum'ot and impurities along the way. So last point, when we are connected, we are protected. Don't let that leave you tonight. I gave you pets for a reason. When we're connected, we're protected. Also in Tomer Devorah. Just before this evening, I said Tikkun Klali is 10 very special chapters daily, but the first pasuk in the whole thing that drills this point home. It says, Michtam LeDavid Sheme'eni El Ki Hasiti Bach. Protect me, God, for I sought refuge in you. Now, I read a commentary on this, and it said, let's say you had the power to help someone, and he's coming to you, humbly, protect me, I'm seeking help. Wouldn't you feel indebted to help that person? That's the mentality we have to have. These parashiot in this month of Tammuz is all about the opposite. It's all about pride, honor, desire. We have to come in polar opposite of these korachs, of the ideas of the meraglim, of Balak. We have to have a good eye, a humble eye. And yes, the depth. Who's having fun? Is anyone inspired yet so far? Thank you. There's more. There's always more. Torah is infinite. It has so much pearls. And just one last point on spirituality before we move on to kindness. Do you know that everyone could feel the way I feel from Torah? Everyone has a share in the Torah. Think about your Hebrew name. Everyone has a pasuk that they're supposed to recite at the end of Amidah. Mine, this is who I am. My pasuk, my name is Reuben. My pasuk is from Shlomo HaMelech, who I have a real affinity towards. And my pasuk is as follows: Re'ezeh masati. This is what Shlomo HaMelech says. This is what I discovered. Take one thing and add it to another thing. Put 2 things together to find the scheme of a thing. So this is what I mean when I like to go deep. I like to get the scheme of things. So I'll give you one example. My first discovery, when I learned what my pasuk is, remember I told you my story, I attributed Hashem sparing me in my accident. I didn't pass Chas v'Shalom, and I attributed it to one good deed, because I don't know how many there were back then. I was young, dumb, and living for myself. One good deed. So my kiddush is as follows, right before we move on to kindness. Acts of kindness are the monies used to pay for penancy in this world. I'm going to say that again, acts of kindness, masim tovim, Torah mitzvot, are the currencies used to warrant life, continued life on this earth, because nobody can guarantee tomorrow. But your masim tovim can. The quiet strength of kindness. The world runs on kindness. There's a pasuk, Olam Hesed Yibaneh. Here's a very big reflection. Coming from Rabbi Yedid. He once gave a class and he said, what would have been had Yosef not inquired with the Sad Alafim? What would have been? What could he gain from the Sad Alafim? He's stuck in the same prison cell as him. There was nothing to gain, and it was straight kindness, asking, what's wrong? Can I help you? And that's what triggered him rising to prominence. A little inquiry, a little act of kindness. So that's one. And like we said earlier, that faith is beyond logic. It begins when logic ends. Where does kindness begin? Who wants to chime in? Anyone could chime in at any point, please. I feel like I'm best when I'm prompted. But where does kindness begin? Kindness begins where justice ends, where fairness ends. Or there's no ulterior motives. Kindness is minimizing other people's obligations towards us while taking our obligations towards others very seriously. I told you my story. I told you that I believe that I'm deficient in Department of Merits. I act the way I act. I shouldn't say acting. I am the way I am because it's the wrong way. They say in the Mishnah B'Kavod, don't be like someone who serves Hashem for the sake of reward. I can't help it, but I'm getting there. I'm getting to serving Hashem out of love every single day more and more. But I told myself that day, and I'm still working to, break it, to have the healthier mode of serving Hashem, that I want merit. I want merit. I want to be a light onto the world. I want to do something that people can benefit from. So this is really how everything came about. Everything that happens to you and what you take away from it, they're so big, they could take you to the moon. You know that rocket emoji, to the moon. You could take something and run so far and you don't even know. I'm a huge believer, and now write these words down, in the greatness of our deeds. They say that some people earn their share in a moment. The overwhelming majority don't, but your deeds is what gets you there. There was a nice story that it was short-lived. Me and my wife used to read short passages in bed, of Torah ideas, Hafetz Hayim. And he said that there was once a counselor, and she had a box of crayons, and she told the kids to make a self-portrait. And to the campers that she favored, she gave the bright, vibrant colors, and to the campers that she didn't like as much, she gave the darker, the murkier colors. And whose self-portrait do you think came out better? The campers that she favored. So he went on to say that this is what we do every day. This is what we do with our words, the power in our words. We paint people's worlds. When we do acts of kindness, we give strength to Hashem. This is a deep concept, but I just basically said we're giving power to Hashem. It's not a Has v'Shalom, a slight on Hashem. We're partners in creation. The Torah says that we're partners in creation. So everything that happens, the blessing or curse Has v'Shalom, is because of man's deeds. Don't get that wrong. So next time anything, always recognize the power you have, the power in your deeds and your words. Two very nice ones. Very nice one. Praying for others. Why is it so effective? Praying for others, the reason it's so effective is because, first of all, this is the prerequisite. You have to really feel the other person's pain. If you really feel the other person's pain and you pray for them, it's 100% effective, and now let me tell you why. Because upstairs, Hashem decreed that your friend who's going through something suffer for whatever reason. But he didn't decree that you have to suffer. So if you are carrying pain from your friend in pain, how does Hashem fix your pain that he didn't decree should happen? By fixing his pain. So that's the calculation, that's the heshbon you could make with that. That's why praying for others is so effective. I don't know where to go. So, this thing that we hold in our pockets, it fulfills the greatest paradox on earth today. A device that's meant to connect, that is separating people. This thing in my hand, of course, there's so much we could benefit from it, but this thing is not being used for benefit, it's being used for the opposite. And this thing straight up catapulted us into the Mashiach era. We call it the smartphone era. It's the Mashiach era, it's the days of Mashiach. This thing brought us to it. It's the leading cause of mental health disease. The best we could do with our cell phones is take nice pictures. But I thought Hashem is doing that for us anyways. The only thing that can stop Hashem, Hashem is doing that for us anyways. He could bring our still photos to life. From bringing our still photos to life is us not being there in real time. My mom will attest to this, that I'm a hoarder, or at least I was a hoarder. But it got a lot easier for me to get rid of things that no longer serve me, because I know Hashem is saving it all for me. If my friends are here, they know me as the guy that has all the past content. I have an SSD, and I have all the content. So, but the more we use this, basically, the more we use this the wrong way, the less happier we'll be. And I once gave I posted a video on my GEMS account, very insightful if you think about it, that a person's Instagram feed, you could know exactly what they're about if you look at their feed. And this we can relate to the Jewish idea of mitzvah, goreret mitzvah, avera, goreret avera. The reward for a mitzvah is another mitzvah, and the reward for avera is another avera. Instagram runs on an algorithm, and it has it down to a science. If we look at something for longer than we should, that algorithm takes notice, and it's going to feed us more. If we're looking at the wrong things, we're just going to keep getting more. But the good news is we could break the pattern anytime we decide to. Swipe faster, it'll hop, it'll take notice so fast. And thank God, I think my feed is clean, and I'm happy for it. So let's make our goal, if something we can walk out of here tonight with, that's achievable for everyone, is let's use that device in our pockets only for good, only to inspire, only to help people, only to connect, only to masim tovim. And you want to see what the page looks like, guys? You see little images, isn't that cool? Can you tell? Cool page. This is what we started with. And then we got it to a one sheet. I want to pause for one moment and shout out Diddle Towel. Diddle, I'm sorry I'm late. Me and Diddle spent half the day together. Diddle and I are working on a book that's Torah values through basketball. And scream out what you got to hear. The passage on integrity or the passage on courage. I want to read it to you guys.
Integrity. Courage.
Integrity, okay? Oops. Sorry. Okay, integrity. Here it is. Okay.
I changed my mind. Courage.
Okay. Integrity. Just so look out for when the book comes out. Among all the virtues that show up on the hardwood, the integrity of a person stands tallest. What is one faculty that most clearly separates man from other living creatures? It's the power of speech, the way we communicate and uplift others on the floor, the choice words used, the honesty displayed. There's often overlooked award that warrants far more attention, that's sportsmanship. When we stick out a hand to help an opponent for help. When we raise our hand after an accidental foul, we shake hands with the opposition post-game, win or lose. These are the greatest indications of a strong character. And then there's the opposite, blaming on teammates or officials, showboating after a made basket, using street language, and bringing it to the hardwood, a sacred space meant for respect, competition, and discipline. The quiet truth in all this, the most admired player is the one who lets his play do the talking, the one who drops 50 in a game without so much as a change of expression. That is the player who's unquestionably looked up to the most. So before you think of showing off, act like you've been there before. Our greatest teacher, Moshe Rabbeinu, mastered the trait, the virtue of humility, not because he considered himself not worthy, but because he understood what he should measure himself against. The godly soul within him and a great God above. He understood that there's no end to the greatness he could achieve. When you measure yourself against lesser people, even if you outshine them, they're a weak yardstick. But when you measure yourself against the greats of old, consider how short you fall in comparison, you're well on your way to greatness. True champions don't need to boast. Their action speaks volumes, their silence roars. So ditto kol hakavod for your beautiful idea. We're working together on this project and we hope to bring it to print. Love you, ditto. Ditto taught me basketball when I was a kid.
Ruby, can I tell him a colorful story about integrity?
Post. We're in flow, post. Sorry, Dick. Only because they came here for me, I have to, okay, now I'll give you another thing. Where this is really very important in today's day. And this, the thing that lives in our head, the mind that's always racing, the mind we can't quiet, the thoughts that are non-stop. And I'll combine that with what we call the Yetzer Hara. Where should I begin? So I read a wonderful secular book in a very impressionable age called As Men Thinketh by James Allen. And he's not the first one. The first one I read, but many people have likened the mind to a garden. And what you plant in it will grow, without question. If you leave it stagnant, weeds will grow. You must put good into the mind. So, and then I'll jump to the Yetzer Hara. Now tell me, who wants to feel what the Yetzer Hara looks like? Who wants some tips on how to identify this guy that wants to kill us? He's 80% of our thoughts in a day. An average person has of 100% of his thoughts, 80% of them on average are negative. That's the Yetzer Hara. When we're faced with an important choice, and the first option is, it sounds great. This is what we should be doing. That's the Yetzer Hara. At options 2, 3, 4, 5, that's the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara, it seeks to bring you down when you're on the way to success. And there's an amazing story about this, I'm going to share it. In the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, there was a man named Darby, and he was onto something. He said, there's gold over here. And he went to a wealthy person to invest, and they bought the equipment. He told him his assumption, not his assumptions, but he showed him his research, and he said, yeah, this is a great idea, let's do it. They worked for months and months, and the Yetzer Hara came to Darby, and he said, you were wrong. So he hung up, the investor hung up, and the equipment, he pawned it off for $100. And he told the guy his story. So this guy called in his own researcher and went to the site. And his researcher is banging on the wall. He says, 1 or 3 more feet, there's gold here. They got the equipment and they struck gold. This is the Yetzer Hara. When salvation, when a Yeshua is around the corner, it's all out blitz time for Yetzer Hara. When you're on the way to nothing, when you're doing meaningless pursuits, the Yetzer Hara will let you continue. But when you're doing something worthwhile, he's going to do everything in his power to stop you. An obstacle is the greatest indicator that a person is moving in the right direction. I saw a beautiful video on Instagram. Again, we're still on the mind and the Yetzer Hara. And this was Michael Schofield from Prison Break. I forgot what his name is. And he said, if I quote unquote messed up, I would say to myself, of course you did, you idiot, why would you do that? How could you? But if I talked to my friends like that, I would have no friends. So when I speak to myself, I now make sure that it's nurturing and loving, because who's gonna be there? And it was very nice the way he said it. But the way we speak to ourselves, if we spoke to our friends like that, we wouldn't have any friends. Did you ever see the video by this Chinese or Japanese guy, Yakamoto? The most amazing thing was brought to my attention, I could not believe it, that water, when spoken to on a consistent basis, loving words versus water that is cursed at, and you put it under the scientific microscope, one looks, the word James Allen uses, groveling. The one you cursed at looks disgusting. And the water that you spoke loving words to, do you know what it looks like? Crystal, shining, like it's gonna live to out 120. That video made a lasting impression on me. And I think this is a nice one. I'm gonna speak to myself. But I've seen it, and I posted a video about it, that everyone's overthinking. And there's a reason and there's a cure. We're overthinking because we're overcompensating for all our differences. Everyone is wired differently. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier. Everyone's wired differently, and that's okay. In social settings, everyone wants to feel interesting and important, and we're gearing up how to reply instead of listening, and this is why everyone's overthinking. But the cure for it is, the topic of tonight, Hashem, recognizing your value, recognizing why He loves you, what your strengths are, and there'll be no more need. You could be present instead of actually gearing up to respond. I know I'm not alone when I'm talking to someone and I know he's not there. It's like you know the person's not there, or vice versa, Okay. A lot of the Torah, it's all, I don't know where to go from here. Do I end? I don't know. There's so much. I'll go on forever. I'll continue with, I'll end with two more things, two more squares on the sheet. I mentioned earlier that Samachayim Pepe Sadi. Mishle says, in an abundance of words, offense will not be lacking. There's going to come a day when we're going to have to account for every word uttered. Like a telegram, you had to pay for every word that you wrote. Same thing with our mouths. Opinions, when we share our opinion, if you think about it, first of all, it's the cheapest thing on earth, because who are we? We're supposed to be humble. An opinion is the cheapest commodity on earth. But did you ever think about this? This will maybe stop you, whereas that one won't. Do you know when you leave your opinion, you're leaving behind a trace of your character? What that means is, imagine saying, oh, I hated it. Imagine saying how much you hated something and later finding out it was loved by everyone. Would you feel like a dummy?